For those of you interested in the hair tutorial, the link is at the end of this video. Hi. I have now watched the Daisy Link trial more than once. And this is because I had been watching Kathy's coverage on Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. And I always respect Kathy's opinion. I always respect Kathy's opinion because it's always the same as mine, to be honest. But I also feel that she's very smart and she has a lot of good insight. So when she and I were not seeing eye to eye on this, unbeknownst to her because she does not know me at all, I thought, let me take another look. First, I'm going to go over the things that I saw and felt and thought during the first watch that have not changed since after the second watch. For one thing, this trial is a mess. This courtroom is a mess. I mean, they switched courtrooms midday on the last day. The second courtroom was a mess. There is a casual vibe in this courtroom with the judge and the lawyers, and not friendly casual, but kind of unprofessional casual. Everything is kind of unpolished somehow. Even the medical examiner, who I liked very much, he got his degree in the classics, Latin, at Brown University, and then he went to medical school. But even he looked like he slept in his clothes.
Cocaine that this man had in his system. This isn't just any amount. This is a
goodly amount. Yes.
Okay.
A goodly amount. It's not. It's not. Just sometimes we'll see people, regular cocaine users, and they're probably coming down, and they have just a tiny little bit of cocaine coming along for the ride. He's using.
The discussions outside the presence of the jury were kind of messy.
Your Honor, not only is this impeachment by contradiction, Judge, this is also inextricably intertwined. If Your Honor, and I have case law to support it, when an event is discussed, it is so inextricably intertwined because she gave on that incident is so inextricably intertwined that the state should be and is entitled to allow the jury to hear exactly what happened. And this evidence right here is so inextricably intertwined that the jury should have a full picture. We have evidence clearly that says, puts it in perspective for the court. And because it is so inextricably intertwined, the court should allow the state to present it.
I've never used the phrase inextricably intertwined. Maybe that's a legal term. It's a bold move because that is a tongue twister. And hats off to her for saying it so many times. Now, we not only know how to use it in a sentence, we know how to use it in every sentence. So, time well spent, I guess. The vibe overall, to me, of this entire trial was not nice. There was a lack of respect, certainly for the defendant's family, I felt, and just in general, the judge, Lodi Jean, she was okay. She's the judge. I'm not a judge, so I'm not here to judge her, but yes, I am, and she's just okay. She didn't thank people for their testimony or their time. The second to last day of the trial, she told the jurors that the next day, closing arguments and time to get the case to deliberate, that the day might run a little long. So, to eat a heavy breakfast. Now, this isn't like eat a big breakfast, we're going to be in the car for a long time on our way to Nana's. This is a profession. These are people who are, you couldn't give them 15 minutes to get some coffee and a donut or something? I just thought that was unnecessary, and maybe some of these people can't eat a big breakfast. I don't know. It's just like, we're not sitting around our mother's kitchen here. What are you doing? I didn't like that so much. And there was a lot of stuff like that about her that I didn't love. I don't mind casual, but this was very rough around the edges. I was just kind of like, When are the real lawyers getting here? And can someone clean this place up? I didn't mind her rulings. You know, she wasn't like Bev Cannoni, who we saw in the Karen Reed trial, but she wasn't like some of the great judges we've seen, and just good judges we've seen. She was no Cranick, obviously. The judge for Chandler Halderson. We've seen some great judges. And just some good judges, you know. I mean, this was not that. And maybe I'm just spoiled. I don't know. The attorneys did a lot of the following when they were doing a cross-exam. They would ask a question, the person on the stand would start to answer it, and they would then, depending on the answer they got, I guess, they would say, please answer the question. Then they would go to answer, and they would say, okay, that's not, let me rephrase the questioner. What I asked was, okay, the question was kind of this, let me ask another way, kind of implying that this person is too stupid to understand the question, or might be trying to lie or skirt the truth, that kind of thing. I don't like that attitude. It's not necessary, I don't think. I just don't like it, you know. I think there are better ways to cross-examine someone. But we're used to seeing this kind of contempt in the courtroom, unfortunately. Daisy's family took the stand, her mother, her sister, and her niece. Her niece was lovely. Her mother was very nice. I liked her sister very, very much. Her son appeared telephonically, as Sarah Boone would say, and he sounded very cute and very sweet. Now, Daisy Link, whilst listening to her son's testimony, had a look in her face and a look in her eyes. You can tell that she really loves her son, which sounds obvious. Of course she loves her son. But the reason I'm saying this is because we often discuss Sarah Boone and how unlikable she is and how cold we never feel any love from her toward her son or towards George or towards anyone, really. She doesn't have those qualities, and I always say that even horrible people can be good parents. I'm not saying that Daisy Link is a horrible person. I'm just saying that horrible criminals and people can still love their children with a real love. And there was a true love in her eyes. And this only comes up because of Sarah Boone and her complete lack of decency and emotion. I didn't know anything about this case when I knew about the jail baby, which the jury did not find out about, of course. So I had that. But aside from that, I did not know very much about this case. So I was able to kind of see Daisy as the jury saw her, which is not always the case, because a lot of time, by the time a trial starts, we've seen it all. Daisy's testimony on the stand was what I would best describe as lackluster. She did not, I didn't get the sense that she was faking anything, being dramatic or trying to cry or do anything that was not real, which is good. Unfortunately, what came across was just this very almost uninvested. It was easy to trail off when she was talking and stop listening. But I did listen because I watched her testimony more than twice. Because of that, I kept forgetting, I kept thinking, did I hear that? Did I stop listening? And, I have issues sometimes with attention and retention, so maybe that's a me thing. Let me know if you had the same experience there. One of the things that stuck with me from the very beginning of this trial was something that the prosecutor said in his opening statement. And when I first heard it, I thought, I don't like that. But I also thought, well, let me wait, because maybe it will come to light why he's saying this way, or I'll forget all about it because there will be so many other things. We'll see. I assumed there was a reason he was saying it, because why would you put something in your opening statement if it's a non-issue? It has continued to bother me, and as a matter of fact, I would say that there was a vibe in this courtroom that I did not like, as I said, and this particular statement really sets the tone. this is what the prosecutor said, and then we'll hear him say it. So he sets up the day, by the way. He says that they had a fight, and Daisy had admitted to cheating on Mr. Jimenez. Now, Mr. Jimenez, he starts, rightfully upset. He doesn't pull any weapons. He doesn't hit the defendant. He threatens her by telling her, "You're going to sleep outside." And he's going to lock the door. And you're going to hear in evidence that this wasn't the first time that this had occurred. And she didn't like having to sleep outside. So in a fit of rage, she pulled AGU in.
He was drinking, he was smoking weed, and he had cocaine in his system. Miss Lynn tells police officers that when she saw Mr. Jimenez out there, he had a look of betrayal. So she told him and confirmed that she had cheated on him. Now, Mr. Jimenez, rightfully upset, he doesn't pull out any weapons, he doesn't hit the defendant, but instead, he threatens her by telling her, "You're going to sleep outside tonight." And he's going to lock the doors. And you're going to hear in evidence that this wasn't the first time that that had occurred, and that she didn't like having to stay outside.
I'm not sure. I had to check to make sure that this was the state, because the prosecution, because I could not imagine why this would come into their opening statement. Certainly, had I been the defense, I would have leaned into this big time. So, the argument here is, hey, he didn't pull a weapon. He didn't hit the defense. Bravo. What a man. She didn't know what she had there. The man made her sleep outside, would lock her out of her own home and make her sleep outside on occasion. And this is part of your opening argument, statement. I didn't like, right away, I thought, all right, like I said, I'll wait and see what happens here, but no bueno. Did not like it. No me gusta. Here we go. So then the defense comes and he has his arguments, and, there was a lot there that didn't sound great, really. The whole, apparently Mr. Jimenez thought that Daisy was cheating on him, which I guess she was, but she had told him that the man who was there was her cousin. I would imagine that Mr. Jimenez would recognize her cousin, no? These are the things that I felt that did not change. That and the fact that I do not like Daisy Link. That did not change. The surveillance of her in the committing the actual crime is not a good look. And I would even be, now that I've heard more that I've heard, which we'll talk about in a second, I would be willing to overlook that. However, the jury doesn't know that, a lot of the things that we've since learned. As the jury, I would not. Knowing what the jury knew and seeing this, I just wouldn't think that this was, I would think that the abuse went both ways, absolutely. And I personally, as much as I'm not crazy about Daisy Link, without even knowing anything, hearing the man speak, since he can't, because, I don't like him. I don't like him even more. And there was nothing to recommend him that I heard in that trial. This was not a good guy. The fact that now listen, she didn't record the crime herself, but there was surveillance and it had sound. And so we could hear her and yelling at him and berating him and not taking him seriously, basically screaming. She didn't scream this exactly, but the message was, I don't care. Like I said, had I known some of the things that I know now, I would have felt differently about this, but for whatever reason, it did not come out. which is unfortunate because isn't that what a trial is for? I think Daisy's biggest problem is Daisy. Her behavior in the courtroom wasn't good. She has a little bit of an attitude that you don't want to have when you're in this situation, in my opinion. Her testimony was, as I said, lackluster at best. She lied to the police for quite a while. She acted like she didn't even know who Mr. Jimenez was. And her argument for being worried about having her kids taken away, I mean, if you're going to lie about something, lie about the fact that he was there against your will, say that. It just didn't jive. It just didn't jive. And they weren't using the battered spouse syndrome defense. I don't think they called it that, but we're familiar with that defense strategy. And I think that had I been on the jury, seeing what they saw, to me, a woman who chases a man to shoot him and then confronts him, essentially, even though I know he was lying down, having been shot, but verbally berating him or whatever. This does not, to me, speak of a victim, although I believe she was a victim of Mr. Jimenez. That's clear to me, and probably to most. A little bit before the Sarah Boone trial, there was Marcia Thompson, who was a woman in Florida, who banged her husband while he was asleep. And she was found not guilty. She was found not guilty because there was a long history there, and because she seemed like an honest woman who was doing what she had to do to protect herself and her family. A lot of times a battered spouse will put an end to their abusive spouse when they can, meaning when he's asleep, when his back is turned. You know, they will kill him in his sleep, set his bed on fire. Things happen. This is with the Sarah Boone thing why I didn't really, I mean, I guess they tried to, why there has to be an action there that, I don't remember what the term was, but anyway, Daisy Link's situation was really not that of someone trying to escape, because he was already running away. Get in your house, lock the door, put your kids to sleep, and go to sleep yourself, which is another thing that I don't like, is that these two people, I mean, they were living a certain kind of life, apparently, running around outside playing cops and robbers while there are two children in the house, and that is not good. That's not, I'm sorry to say it, but if we look at Daisy's tattoos, we know that she does not make great choices, even if they're long-term. And people can change, I get that. But nothing that I saw there, aside from the fact that the other things we know, nothing I saw there, to me, spoke of change. And I'm sorry about that because it broke my streak with Kathy. After I finished watching the trial twice and revisiting everything, Kathy, from Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo, interviewed Daisy Link's sister, Crystal Barreto. I will put the link below just in case someone watching this hasn't watched that, which is unlikely, but you never know. I will say this, for starters. I like Daisy's sister very much. I liked her on the stand, as I said. I liked her even more in this interview. And most importantly, she's very pretty and I love her nails. Now, Crystal was able to flesh out certain things that I feel should have come out in the trial, because, as I say, that is the whole point of a trial, is it not? A few things here. The first one, and I suppose the math could have been done, but I don't think they mentioned this in the trial. Daisy was 17 years old when she met Mr. Jimenez. Mr. Jimenez was around 7 to 10 years older than her. So we were talking about a teenager with a grown man. 7 years, even if it's just 7 years, is a lot when one of the parties is 17 years old. So this already gives a very different feeling to the entire situation and relationship, because Mr. Jimenez had time to groom Daisy Link. And that alone changes things a lot, in my opinion. The other question that was answered is, as far as the parental rights agreement go, or custody rights. What happened there? What happened there, according to Daisy Link's sister Crystal, and it makes sense, that Mr. Jimenez had called CPS on Daisy. He reported her. They came to investigate. They found everything was fine, but Daisy was curious as to who reported this. They couldn't tell her. She gave it a think and revealed to them that she felt it must be Mr. Jimenez. They, in turn, investigated him and her, and they both had to take parenting classes. He was then limited to, and they did discuss this in the trial, to supervised visitation, the supervisor being his mother. Why they limited him, I don't know, but I'm sure we can imagine. Now, not that long before this incident, I don't know how long, Mr. Jimenez's mother moved from Florida to Georgia. So she was no longer available to supervise. And Crystal said that Daisy felt badly about this, so she would let him see the children while she was supervising, while she was present. That makes sense to me. Also, the fact that we weren't told about Mr. Jimenez being the reporter on that. My guess is that that's what happens when you try to leave Mr. Jimenez. So that showed to me the difficulties in leaving him for good, if he's going to call CPS and report you when you attempt to. Mr. Jimenez had a criminal past. We also learned this from Crystal. He had been deported before when he was, I don't know if he took a plea or what happened there, but I assume he was convicted of vehicular homicide. Convicted or accused, I don't know. Vehicular homicide, the victim of which was his ex-girlfriend. So, of course, this wouldn't come out in this trial, but it does paint a picture to us. And these things, all of these things, did make me feel differently about this case. And I definitely changed my feelings about Daisy and this situation. Although I still don't find that she comes off as likable. And I had a feeling that the jury felt the same way, and apparently I was right, because they convicted her of second-degree you-know-what. And the evidence, the surveillance video, was very hard to overcome. The lying to authorities was very hard to overcome. The kind of lying, the fact that she denied knowing him, the fact that there was a lot of performative screaming, and, people don't like that. The fact that she has children that were in that house while she's running around outside, I don't doubt that one of the things that Crystal said that really painted a picture for me was that, in her words, you had to know Mr. Jimenez to understand why Daisy did not think that she had even hit him when she shot in his direction. First of all, I don't think that this was intentional. I think that she possibly in a fit of rage and just, everyone has their limits. The shame here, of course, is that Daisy was so close. Her mother had come into town. They were going to pack her up and take her back to Texas. And only that happened because now her children are without their mother. And that's a shame. And while I feel that Daisy made some very poor, selfish choices as a mother, I didn't get the feeling that they are better off without her, as we have felt in some other cases. I'm not sure why she didn't think of them while making foolish choices, especially since she was so close to getting away. Back to what Crystal said about Pedro. She said, you had to know Mr. Jimenez to know why, now I'm paraphrasing, why Daisy thought that she hadn't hit him. Because she, first of all, was not aiming. She was kind of aiming down in his general direction, which I believe. And Mr. Jimenez, now these are my words, was a bit of a drama queen. So it would not be unusual for her to shoot in his general direction, not hit him, and him to fall to the ground and start screaming. So when Mr. Jimenez fell to the ground and started wailing, she was like, go ahead, look, I'll take it easy, you know. Like, we've been through this. Just get up. But he didn't. And that tracks for me. When I heard that, I wanted to myself. That alone gives us an idea of what kind of person we are dealing with here. And he was drunk and drugged up and abusive and a drama queen on top of all of it. I'm not saying obviously nobody deserves to die this way, but nobody deserves to be forced to sleep outside their own home either, many times. So this didn't have to happen. And when I say this, I mean Daisy losing basically her entire life, potentially, because of this incident. Now, let's go on to what we know, that another thing that the jury didn't know. So of those things, it was just that, well, they didn't know any of those things, but they could have known all of them except for Mr. Jimenez's criminal past. And I think it would have benefited for a lot of these things to come to light. For example, their ages when they met, and the fact that he was the one who had called child services on her. I believe that Mr. Jimenez would have broken into her home. I believe that he was very dangerous, and I believe that had she stuck around, things would not, I mean, this was a very dangerous man. I don't think Daisy Link is a dangerous woman, but clearly she was that night, and she has a temper, which is not illegal. The first thing that I learned about Daisy Link, which again, the jury did not know, was about the baby that she gave birth to whilst incarcerated. And I'm assuming we all know the story here. She was talking to another inmate through the vent. They figured out a way for him to send his sperm to her and for her to administer it with a medication application for yeast infections, and it worked. Now, Daisy's sister has a different take on some of this. She felt that Daisy was coerced into saying what the facility wanted her to say. And while we know all too well that there's a lot of corruption in some of these correctional facilities. I'm not saying that there is not. However, when I look at all of the possibilities here, that just doesn't make sense to me, because, for starters, when she called her mother to tell her the news, she was not being coerced, certainly by the jail, because she said that she's going to sue them and she's going to get out of there. And I don't think that the jail would tell her to say that. Daisy claimed that she had been assaulted by a guard, which I don't believe. The paternity test was done, and Mr. Juan de Paz the inmate was found to be the biological father of the baby. The other thought belief that Crystal had, first of all, also, in my first video I said that this must have been an immaculate conception. And when Crystal first started talking about this, she said that, because they were all like, how is this possible? She said that everyone at her church was saying it was an immaculate conception, and I thought that was, kind of funny. That Crystal did not go with. She didn't think it was an immaculate conception. She did say that there are rooms in the facility that are unseen by cameras and people in the vicinity of these rooms, and that possibly something had gone on between Daisy and Mr. DePaz in one of those rooms that the jail would not want the general public to know about. And again, this is possible. Like I said, there's plenty of corruption in these places. I just don't think that's what it was. And I don't think that the jail would go to me, if we're to believe this narrative, I don't think the jail would want this to be the reason, the way this happened, any more than the other one. Neither look good. And as I said to my best friend, if there are private rooms in these Florida jails, don't you think Sarah Boone would have been getting a daily beating in them by the guards? And and she said, no, I think that they would beat Sarah publicly and proudly. And I said, you're right. So who knows if there are private rooms there and what they're doing in them, if they exist. But I believe that the story, I was going to say I believe Daisy, but Daisy's first story was not this. I believe what the investigation discovered, which is that it was sent through the vent, and this is what they were spending their time and energy. They figured out how to do this. I believe that. Is it unlikely? Is it bizarre? Yes, but that's what I think happened, and for a few reasons. One being what Daisy said when she called her mother and told her. So the baby is with the biological father's mother, Abuela de Paz, as I call her. And as I said in the first video, when I saw a picture of this little baby girl, I felt much better about the care she was getting, because you can see that she's clearly very loved. And Crystal actually said that both of Abuela de Paz's sons are incarcerated, and that she is a very loving grandma, and that they'll get on like FaceTime together sometimes. She'll show them the baby. They have a good relationship, which is very nice. And that this is kind of a second chance for her, which is a pretty good outcome, all things considered. I mean, at least the baby is well taken care of and is able to have a relationship with Daisy's family. Now, here is where I cannot, this I can't get over. The choice that Daisy made while in jail, while waiting to go on trial for this crime, this is unforgivable to me, because for whatever her reason was, if she thought she was going to get out of jail this way or whatever it was, this is knowingly bringing a baby into this world when you nor the father, and who knows if that father's going to be a father. I mean, at this point, she didn't know for sure that his mother would take the baby, and if she did, she didn't know the mother that well. I mean, these were not two young kids starting a life together. These were two people who never met face to face, who were both awaiting their you-know-what trial. So this is about as selfish and dangerous and reckless as it gets. And I can never be okay with that decision. I think it's premeditated. A lot of thought and planning went into this. And it's true, Crystal also said that she would take the baby, but she hadn't discussed it with Daisy because she didn't know about this until Daisy had the baby. And that too is not okay. It's just not okay. It is so selfish and so reckless and so... It's a terrible thing to do. And I know that the baby is, of course, very cute and thank God being well taken care of. But how a mother could do this, I don't know. And that's where Daisy Link and I really part ways. So that's how I feel about that. And I'm sorry for that. And I'm sorry for her family, because I know that this is all of this is very difficult for them. And it's a shame. It's a shame for her 2 children. It's just nothing good here, and because of this decision, I doubt she'll be getting any time for good behavior, or as they call it in Florida, good time. Thank you for watching. I will see you very, very soon. Bye.